Let's go.
This is our sponsor, everybody, EEG. So this, Fred, can we make Grant a panelist? Hey, Grant.
Hello, Heather. Sorry about that. Sorry, buddy.
That's all right. That's okay. Let's everybody introduce. This is Grant Johnson. He is with EEG. This is our sponsor. So Grant, take a few minutes to tell this audience a little bit about EEG and about your Omega product and your Alpha product.
Thank you. I was just watching the video there, so you had a little bit of an overview of the Alpha and the Omega. Basically, it's a turnkey solution for operators that want to get an esports or gaming offering in their venue without going all the way into a LAN center, a Helix style operation. So the Omega is a 6-station array that's effectively bolted to the floor, has a credit card swipe on it, and it has hourly drops of tournaments so that it's an immediately available experience for gamers, whether it's at a bowling alley, a mall, a theater. In this case, clearly a theater is the most relevant one to talk about. And the Alpha product is not a preset arrangement. It could be 5 units, it could be 50 units, and it depends really what the venue would like. Both have the same software. It's just a little bit of a different arrangement. One's more flexible and available for larger sizes. Then of course, Heather, as you know, we just had a launch of our new product on the last weekend in Atlantic City, and I apologize for wearing a hat. It's just I've been on the road for a couple of weeks and haven't really had a chance to get myself organized here, but we just launched our LAN Dual product to quite a bit of fanfare in Atlantic City, which also is probably going to be of interest to your viewers and certainly the theater owners.
Awesome. And so just for anybody that might be interested, if they want to reach out, they can go to sales@eeg.games and they can get information from you guys directly, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And do we have these as a turnaround time just to kind of a guesstimate if somebody said they wanted it? Is this a month, 2 months, 3 months turnaround time? What are we looking at?
Well, we're doing Alpha and Omega installs now.
Okay.
The LAN dual product, that was our inaugural launch. We're just going to digest some of the information, analyze the data. I would expect we'll be next month in a position that we would be able to proceed forward on that product.
All right. Well, thank you for being a sponsor of the CEAC, everybody. So you guys can reach out to sales@eeg.games.com for more information on their products for a LAN center for your theaters, or if there's esport companies. There's a nice diverse audience here. So thank you, Grant. So go ahead, Fred. Go ahead and move on to let's welcome our first speaker. We have Kai Browning. So Kai, just introduce yourself briefly, and then we'll introduce each of our speakers. And if our other three haven't shown up, we'll go on without them. And then we'll go on to the questions for each speaker.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather. Thanks for having me. Currently, my role is the Director of Customer Success for Learn to Esport and our Game Plan product, which is an esports management software. But I have spent over a decade in the gaming and esports space. And as it relates to this conversation today, for I'd say probably the first third of my esports career was spent in kind of the collegiate grassroots sector. And so I have a lot of experience working with movie theaters and other cinemas in that way, and kind of hosting events and watch parties and things like that.
And do keep in mind, as we do events, or do the CEAC does events, one of the topics we'll cover is grassroots. So I will come back to you on that. So here's a couple pictures of Kai's fun events that he's hosted. And this was at what theater was this in?
This was at the Megaplex in Salt Lake City.
Fabulous. Okay, our next speaker. Albin, did he ever come on board? I'm looking to see. Do we see Albin? Albin, raise your hand if you're here. No. Okay, let's go on to the next. I think James is not here either. Our speakers are late. Okay, next speaker. Oh, there's a couple of his pictures. Andy is late. Next speaker. All right, John, take it on.
Hey, I am here.
You're here.
Yeah, so my name is John Spire. I'm the SVP of Partnerships at Dignitas. Dignitas is one of the most historic esports organizations in the world, but for this conversation, I used to work for a different franchised organization called the Houston Outlaws, through which we did a series of in-cinema experiences and events with our fans all over Houston, Austin, and San Antonio. So super excited to speak more on all of those things.
Excellent. And that's why we invited you to speak, because you can share a lot of insight. Okay, next speaker. Adam Sachs is awesome as well.
Morning, everyone. Excited. Adam Sachs, President, CEO, Ultrastar Multitainment Esports Zones. We operate LAN esports at Harrah's Cherokee Resort, North Carolina, bringing it now to Harris Valley River, North Carolina. Born of cinema. Been an independent cinema operator, my partner Alan Grossberg, for 40 years. We have our independent theater in San Diego, California, in beautiful Mission Valley. And we've done a lot of different things. We develop, build, design, manage a lot of different entertainment solutions. And we're working with different folks now, and we're really, really excited to see the entry of cinema and esports grow so much closer together, and be here today to talk about how easy it really is if you just want to jump in.
Excellent. Thank you, Adam. All right, let's go back to our panel questions. We might have to skip through these a little bit. Let's see who we have up first. Kai. So, all right, Kai, what attracted you to the cinema space for events? We'd like to talk about your experience and the potential importance of cinemas for the future of gaming and esports. Now we're going to delve down a little bit.
Sure. I think to answer the first question, what attracted us to utilize cinema space? I think when I first started getting into the gaming and esports space, esports really wasn't the term that we used. It was just gaming clubs and things like that. And so I think it was just kind of a lack of resources. I went to the university that I created the club for and whatnot, and to convince them to let us use their theater space to watch video games was kind of a concept that just didn't make sense to them. And again, we're talking 9-10 years ago at this point.
Right.
It's a completely different landscape in the way that we look now. And so we knew that cinemas, rented out their theaters and they had the opportunity to kind of rent out spaces, and we kind of worked around their parameters. So the first year, from some of those pictures that I shared on my slide before, our first year we rented it out. It happened to be during the day, which was very easy. But the second year we worked with the cinema. The World Finals for League of Legends, and when we did our watch party was in Korea, and so our watch party started, I believe, like at 4 a.m. in the morning, which is a little bit harder to convince the cinema to open up that early. But because we showed so much success and positive experiences previously, they were willing to work with us and make it available for us that morning, which was really awesome.
And how did you guys market to this audience to get them to come?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in one of my pictures, I don't know if we can go all the way back. I don't know if that's too disruptive or not. But they allowed us to take one of the kind of marquee movie poster spots at the hall, and so or in their lobby. And so as people would walk in, they'd be able to see it that way. And then myself and the other kind of colleges in the area, we were working together. So it was a big group effort. It wasn't just one organization. It was 5 different universities working together. And so we had our own, individual reaches with our universities and our student populations and things like that. And then word of mouth. There was a lot of people that participated in both events that we hosted there that weren't students, but just saw it because it was, it was hanging up in the lobby, and that it was an opportunity to participate.
That's awesome, because I think it's one of the questions that a lot of the cinemas want to know is how do we market to this audience? So this is good information. What was the other question I wanted to ask? So there was the little bit of not necessarily pushback, but there was concern from the cinema about hosting an event at a unique time. And did they have to staff up specifically for this event when it was off hours?
They did, but I think everybody that ended up being staffed for that day were gamers, and so they were allowed to also watch and participate, right? Because we were the only ones in the theater at that hour, and they knew where everyone was. I think they specifically try to find people that were interested. Again, I think the general manager was there. I'm almost positive he was, and so I think it was a little bit of an ask for him to be there. But I think everybody else there wanted to be there because they liked gaming or they liked what we were doing. So it was really great to be able to work with them. But it did take some lead time to make that happen.
Would it be safe to say that if a cinema wants to engage in a program like this, they should go ahead and check with all their employees and see who's gamers to make sure that they're kind of aware that this is something they want to do?
Yeah, I think that's definitely an option, right? And I think in the day and age we live now, I think it's a little bit more mainstream to be a gamer, if you will. When we did it before, you kind of got laughed at. You had that stereotype of a gamer that you never came out of your mom's basement and you didn't shower and all of this stuff. And I think this event, especially for the GM of that megaplex, it really, helped them start to change that outlook on a gamer, because they saw all different walks of life come into that theater at 4 o'clock in the morning that you otherwise wouldn't. And again, we're all college students, so I think he got a laugh that we all could get there at 4 a.m. before the game started, but we couldn't get to our noon college class because we were sleeping in. So priorities were definitely different back in the day.
Yeah, I gotcha. All right, so let's go on to the next question. You're gonna skip Alvin? Skip James, skip Andy, get to John. All right, John, so let's take us back a little bit to your time at the Outlaws, and let's talk about the events that you handled. And again, similar to Kai, what made you want to reach out to the cinema?
Yeah, so I guess a couple things, right? So when I worked for the Houston Outlaws, because it was a geographically restricted franchise league, it means we could only activate in Houston, Austin, San Antonio, and kind of everywhere in between, right? So we had a couple more parameters, and with that, we had activated a variety of trade shows, which means we're bringing in a ton of equipment. We had worked with different LAN centers, which means they have the PCs, but not really the viewing side of things. And then we said, well, if you look at esports at its most grand degree, right, these major stadiums and things like that, it's not really the field that matters. It's just the giant screen that everyone's actually watching everything at. Otherwise, it's just watching 10 people on a computer and you can't see anything they're doing, but you can see that they're there, right? So what's the closest thing that replicates that type of giant screen? And the answer is the cinema. So, we had tried a series of different activations in a couple of different theaters across that home marketing area, where we just did viewing parties for average matches, not a world championship, just, hey, come watch our team's match this week. We think it's going to be a good matchup. It's going to be a couple of hours. And those things were tremendously successful.
Right on. And successful from your perspective in that you had high attendance, or there was high interest, or like the audience appreciation, because the cinemas, as we know, are traditionally used to selling tickets and popcorn, right? So how was the success measured from your perspective?
Yeah, so it was a variety of different things. One, I think it created a higher brand perception for the cinemas that we were using, because our fan base felt seen by those respective cinema brands for the first time ever, right? So that matters. Two, we ticketed all of these events. It was, $10 to $15 a ticket, and the core difference being, rather than a movie where the movie rights holder is going to get the lion's share of that, instead 100% of it went back to the cinema. We as the team took nothing. So it became a profitable endeavor, and obviously we put some deals on F&B and things like that. But certain events, smaller events, we packed a theater. Bigger ones, we packed multiple. So we had 500 or 1,000 people, through a couple of different theaters. But it was a good time. It was a good experience, and I think fan sentiment of just being able to get together and do something that they love, surrounded by other people that love it as much as them, is really what made it meaningful.
I love that, actually. And I think that's one of the things when you think about having an esports tournament event or a watch party at a cinema, is that you're with other people who enjoy something that you enjoy, talking the same language, whatever the title is, about the plays, about the activations that go on. So that's awesome. And that you can find this direct home. So we have a question by a person named Kelly. Kelly, your question's perfect for our next speaker. So we'll hop off from John and go to Adam. And Adam has an awesome cinema, and it's a small cinema. So Kelly, we're going to answer your question with our next speaker. And John, we'll come back to you.
You got it.
Okay.
That's funny. I just was seeing the question and was going to answer both large and small. So we actually got into esports in the facility we designed and built for the Auction Indian community in Arizona. It was 170,000 square feet, largest entertainment center of its kind a decade ago when we designed and built it. And operated that for quite a long time. We were getting esports into cinema before this body existed, and anybody was even looking at it, because we saw that natural way to fill the void. We were always looking for alternative content. Any of the theater operators out there listening, sort of know what that phrase means to us. What type of events have been available to us as alternative content, and esports is a whole game-changing type of expedition now, because you can keep people on your property for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, buying concessions, interacting, seeing what else you have going on, and getting involved in esports. To just very quickly answer the question from Kelly, I am not sure that the generic poster exists on Amazon, advertising esports coming soon, but super, super easy to design. Whoever is putting together your art for your social media should be able to grab the right elements. And the game publishers, and I'm sure Kai and John will join in, the game publishers have never come after a movie theater for saying, I'm holding a Super Smash Brothers tournament. If that's all you do, you've got no problem. If you slap Super Smash Brothers on your loyalty cup, and during that competition you sell your movie theater and Super Smash Brothers loyalty cup, now you have a problem with the game publisher, because you're really profiting off using their IP. This is the biggest question that I seem to get from cinema operators.
Yes.
Right, okay. Can I use the games? They don't mind you simply advertising that your game title is being played at their movie theater. I've never heard of one problem from doing that. So this relates back to the, can I make a coming soon poster? Absolutely, coming soon. Gaming in cinema gaming. I wouldn't necessarily call it esports. I know there's esports right behind me on a banner. I know a lot of us are talking esports, but what we're talking today is video gaming. We're talking about how to bring video gaming really easily into your movie theater. And it's as simple as a PlayStation, Xbox, what have you, and a 100-foot HDMI cord through your porthole. You don't even necessarily need internet to get started if you were in a really tough spot. You can play games off of a system and still be competitive, still run a bracketed competition, still be really creative and come up with different things to do. If you open it up to internet, obviously you've got live capability to do other games that require that and expand it. But it's really super simple. Working with a group right now called Sandbox Gaming, and this is going to be designed by independent theater operators for independent theater operators, and it's a league program, no different than a little league or a bowling league. It's going to bring league gaming into your cinemas, and it's going to be groundbreaking. We already have over 200 locations signed up. The biggest thing you can imagine, equipment, is what we're working on to make sure we'll be able to fill all the cinemas and roll this out as we like. If anybody's interested in that, you can certainly reach out if you're an independent cinema operator and give you more information about that. But you know, that's why we're in the space. That's why we're here today, to really talk about how easy it is and what you can and cannot do. Most jurisdictions, please, disclaimer, check with your lawyer. Most jurisdictions will let you give away cash money. We have always done cash prizes for our tournaments. Nothing motivates people to come out like winning 50 bucks, 100 bucks, 250 bucks, whatever you want to put into this. There are ways to monetize it to make sure you're going to get that back, or to promote that. And maybe you're trying to highlight something completely different, but you're going to use all the traffic from your esport program to do that. There's a lot of different cases.
Now, do you guys, and this is a question for all three of you, have you guys shared like whose attendance? Do you share it with the game publisher? Does a game publisher share names or people with you that have attended? He says, okay.
I mean, I'll just say quickly from a theater standpoint, you should capture everybody coming to your event, whether it's through the sign up, the ticket purchase, when they're there, however you want to do it, but you should own that data of who's coming so that you can remarket that, retarget that, and utilize that. The data coming out of your play is also valuable, but that's a whole nother conversation. I'll leave it to the gentleman.
Yeah. You want to say anything on that, John?
Boy, I want to reverse half of the things that he just said. Let me give a couple comments. Going back to not having internet, right? If you look at the core of how esports in the gaming industry was built, it was long before good internet connections, right? So there are a variety of games that specialize in offline or LAN, local area network, where you just route a couple of computers together and you get to have a lot of experiences that way. I put in chat, but for even the biggest, major publishers like League of Legends, so Riot Games, usually for tournaments that have a smaller prize pool than $10,000, you can get away without having any kind of licensure. So those things are made pretty easy. And then I guess to answer Albert's question from the Q&A side, very minimal internet connectivity is necessary. And I guess there are two ways that we're looking at this, right? One is you can just have people in a cinema watching a game. That's taking a live stream from Twitch, very, very minimalistic up and down speed necessary. When it comes to playing many of these games, again, it will depend on the specific title, but going back to, I keep mentioning League of Legends because it's the most played game in the world. Games like League of Legends are meant to be able to be played on as minimalistic of a connection as possible, right? It's in the publisher's best interest to make it feasible for all environments to be able to use these games. So the requirements really aren't very demanding from an internet bandwidth perspective.
I agree.
So let's ask a couple other questions. What do you guys think about choosing a title or choosing, how a cinema in a local area says, I want to play Smash, or I want to do League, or I want to do Call of Duty, or I want to do Rocket League? How does a cinema determine which title they should try to if they're going to do a tournament, if they're going to have a watch party? Where does that, what's the workflow there?
Yeah, I'll say a couple things. One, if you can directly survey your audience, that's always great. Two, it's partially about knowing, one, brand safety from your cinema, what types of content you're willing to showcase. Two, around what age demographic that you want. So in the examples you mentioned, right? Rocket League, it tends to air much younger of an audience. Same with games like Fortnite. There are also some of the more brand safe, right? Games like Counter-Strike, which are a little bit more popular from esports enthusiasts, have guns that look like guns and people shooting other people that looks like people shooting other people. Is that dissimilar from a PG-13 film? No, but something to be mindful of. In terms of total core popularity of games, the most played and most watched is League of Legends. The second most played and most watched is Counter-Strike. The third, I'd put Valorant. Rocket League is fifth or sixth. Smash, it does not require internet, which is super important. And Smash has a strong community in just about every neighborhood known to man because it's very easy to pick up and play. So you have different reasons for each.
Okay, we have Albin joining us, which is great. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, I was just going to say that, you know, from a theater perspective, and you don't necessarily find that you have a ton of sophisticated professionals to run all of this and operate all of this. You're generally working through your own staff and stuff. So sometimes some of the simpler games are easier to get on. Just getting everyone's going to bring their own controllers. Even though you have all the controllers, they're going to bring their controllers, and just getting all that set up. You have to have somebody savvy enough to do all that in an efficient amount of time. So I think all of that stuff plays into your decision as to what game titles you want to showcase. Certainly, John makes a really good point about the first-person shooters. That's something. Our casino locations for a Saturday night tournament, that's great, no big deal. Saturday morning in a family movie theater complex, Smash is probably a safer safe bet.
Well, I was going to ask a question about sponsors, but this helps me go right back to Albin, because I was going to ask you all, what would it take for you guys to bring in a sponsor? And Albin used to work for Coca-Cola. So Albin, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll ask you some questions, and then you can probably answer, what does it take for a sponsor to want to be involved at a cinema for their brand?
Yeah, so I would try. So I think good morning, everybody. Good afternoon for Europe. My name is Albin de Charlotte. I was working with like some of you here on the Coca-Cola viewing parties program that we did when Coke first introduced themselves to esports. And after that, I moved to Riot Games, which was one of my biggest partners, so the publisher of League of Legends. And actually, with James Sterling, we did continue some of viewing parties with League of Legends, focusing only on one game. And now I moved one click further. So I work with G2 Esports with Samurai, and I know manage one of the big teams in the world of esports.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about some of these events that you put on. I know you were really having fun all times of day and evening, convincing theaters to let you have your events. What were some of the obstacles that you came up against, and what would you say for like the future of other cinemas that want to engage?
Yeah, I mean, like, first of all, why viewing parties? I think so. Coca-Cola has decided to get involved into gaming to recruit the next generation of drinkers. And when we were working the gaming strategy, came up this idea that esports was growing, and it was something that actually we know how to deal with, because esports were very similar to things we do in soccer and other grand events. So it was natural for Coke to be part of that. When we decided to work on the gaming vertical, I think our goal was always to think how we can add value to the Coca-Cola customers, being Subway, Walmart, Domino's, and obviously cinema. So cinema and Coca-Cola, I think it's a love story, it's a love affair for a century. Bringing the fresh Coke to the popcorn and to the cinema is part of the experience. So obviously, I started to work with Celine, the Queen Celine. She was in charge of the cinema networks in Europe for the last, I don't know, 10 years or 20 years. And you know, I had a chance to work with her, and she introduced me to this world. I personally love cinemas. I think that when the lights goes down and the sound and the stories tell on the big screen, I love it. So it was very familiar to me. But I have to say that thinking with her and with some of the customers, what we can bring to the cinema industry and the exhibitors was very, very just a blessing for me to work with such a welcoming and warm welcoming industry. So we were thinking, how can we help exhibitors to bring the generation of cinegoers, looking at our demographic aging a little bit? We're thinking, oh, well, if we give them like opportunities to watch what they love on the big screen, they will discover the experience and then want to come back. So that was kind of like the intent. And for that, we talk about event cinemas. Back in the days, it was just like opera, which is not exactly on the target we wanted to reach. So yeah, we put like, let's adapt the event cinemas concept to a format and to content that would be more appealing to the audience. So that's how we connected the dots with what I was working on gaming. I was actually working on music and gaming, so could have been both, but in this case, we selected esports, and we started to obtain the rights from the likes of Riot Games and Square Enix and Blizzard to broadcast into the cinemas the biggest competition. We started with one location in Brussels, started to go 18 locations with James in Europe, and that's where we started to expand the program all over the world. I think at the end for the World Championship Finals of League of Legends, we had up to 450 theaters at the same times. Learning a lot every time, like, should we create like something for people to come, like in-game content, give them customized cups so they can go home with? Should we use satellite or not? Meeting the people from Fathom and discovering all this world of technology and broadcasts. But at the end of the day, what was really rewarding for me was really to feel that people that are used to watch at home alone in the bedroom, I'd find an opportunity to meet people from their neighborhoods that share the same passion for the game and the esports broadcast, and just didn't know that they could watch together. And that's the feedback we receive a lot, is like, I didn't know so many people love the game in my city. And now not only I'm going to come back, but also I made friends and we're going to play together. So that was very Coca-Cola, and that's why we love this program. Yeah, that's pretty much what we did there back then.
Well, that's perfect for me to segue to James. So James Dobin is with National Amusements / Showcase Cinema. So let's put James's slide up real quick. Unmute yourself to Mr. James.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Okay. So so James, introduce yourself, and then we're going to connect you right from what Alban kind of stepped right off from where he was.
Yeah. So just firstly, Heather, it's Dobin, not Dobin.
Dobin. Okay, thank you.
Dobin, that's all right. So yeah, hello everyone. My name is James Dobin. I work for National Amusements. We're part of the Viacom CBS group, and we operate the Showcase Cinema circuit, which has just short of 1,000 screens across 4 territories. So we operate in the US, in Brazil, Argentina, and the UK. And I am based in the UK. I'm based in London. And my role is the director of event cinema. So I look after all the kind of traditional event cinema that everyone knows. And my role is really to kind of go out and kind of find new content, and kind of gaming is a big part of that. It's also worth saying that we also have a distribution business. So we distribute to our own cinemas and also other cinemas event cinema content. And, you know, that's really where we come into this conversation. You know, we existed as an exhibitor, you know, working with Alban. Alban kind of came onto the phone to us to kind of sell in this property that we'd heard nothing about, but, you know, it's really exciting that we had the kind of backing of an amazing brand in Coca-Cola and this kind of huge IP in League of Legends. So, you know, as an exhibitor, we played that in some of our cinemas, and it was all fantastic and amazing. But there were things that we thought that we could improve, because the setup was that we had to have a kind of laptop attached to our projector, and we're obviously delivering it via broadband. So it was great in the cinemas where we had the broadband speeds, but in the cinemas where we didn't have the broadband speeds, we couldn't include them, and we had some big sites. So we felt that actually there was an opportunity to do something different with it and kind of take it to a kind of a broader network. And actually we always had in our mind this kind of idea of actually kind of taking it out to a kind of a much bigger kind of network of cinemas and thinking about doing it as a global event. So fortunately we were able to kind of work with Alban. When he moved to Riot, the cinema piece was kind of part of everything that he did, but it wasn't the biggest part of everything he did. But as you can tell, he's really passionate about the space and kind of making it work. So, it was amazing to kind of have him and Raman, who's his kind of right-hand man on this stuff within Riot, and they were great in terms of championing it internally. So we kind of picked up the baton in summer 2018, and we did 5 events in Europe. And at its widest, we had that going into 150 cinemas across 15 territories. And across those 5 events, we generated just short of $1 million in box office revenue. And
that is awesome. Wow.
It was absolutely awesome. And I think, we were so excited. And so obviously we got to, on the back of the Worlds in 2019, Alban has done a great job in terms of kind of pushing this internally. And I think, as well as Alban and his team, it was starting to get noticed by everyone else. So we pitched it to the team in Los Angeles, and we picked up the rights for kind of global distribution of the viewing parties. And that would have meant opening up Korea and China and the United States, which was really exciting. And then, of course, what happened. So we're kind of back at square one now. But, I have a lot of kind of hope and confidence.
Do you do one screen? Do you do multiple screens? Do you do the largest screen? How do you choose where you're showing this type of event?
Well, generally, it would go into, where we have the live capabilities. In our own cinemas, we have kind of networking. But we initially will go into one screen, and then we'll open up depending on demand. So actually for the Worlds in 2018, there was a team called Fnatic who got through, which is a European team which is based in the UK. They got through to the finals, and we're up against.
I've never heard of them, by the way. Never.
Sorry,
legit.
Sorry, Alban. But they got through to the finals, and it was insane. We sold out every single seat in the UK. It was absolutely berserk, and that was being broadcast from Korea. So it was being broadcast at 7 a.m. in the UK, and we were still able to kind of sell out that. So we can flex depending on the demand for those tickets.
I love that. And so one of the questions I have
Sunday morning 7 a.m. you have a bit of flexibility, isn't it?
Yeah. That's an easier sell.
One of the questions I had asked you guys earlier, when it comes to menu items, do you guys encourage making specific menu items to play off either the events that you're having or the teams that are going to be hosted? What is your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea. I think, partly because of the duration of the event. So, some of the events that we've been involved with have been up to 7 hours long. So, you've got this audience in there for a kind of long period of time. So, actually for some of the events, we sold a kind of booklet of tickets, which includes things like Red Bull and kind of a lunch menu and some snacks along the way. So, you can buy that for like $20 and then just go in with your vouchers and present those at concessions. So that works really well. So it's kind of thinking about the audience, they like their kind of Red Bull, they like their sort of big Cokes, they like their popcorn, all of those snacks. So kind of thinking about that offering. And also, the Red Bull thing is obviously just about keeping their attention running for the kind of duration of the event.
We went as far as putting a hawking cart in the theater because the kids don't want to leave and miss the action. So he's, James is dead on. I mean, you can load up a cart and they will sell all of this right there in the theater without having to move because the action never stops. If you can keep the downtime between the rounds to a minimum, it's great.
So do you put a porta potty inside the screen?
Well, they're young. They can wait.
There was an episode of South Park. I don't know if y'all saw that.
I don't even want to know where they went with that, but there's easy ways. We've also done some specialty drinks if it's in certain areas, certain not. What things, like James said, you can play off a lot of the different things that come with the titles.
I think, John, you mentioned something earlier, right, about a specific menu that you played off players' interests or likes?
Yeah, I mean, the short version is it doesn't take a whole lot to make it special for the fans. So because, we were both the entity hosting the event as well as the talent that they're watching, we utilize the personalities of the players, right? So we would say, hey, what are some of our players' favorite foods? Okay, great. Let's slightly modify, even if it's just in name, modify the names of certain items for a small printout menu and do some specials around those. And those were tremendously successful. Our team colors were also green, so any drink that we could put a little bit of green food coloring, or any drink that has Midori in it, where it was great. And those were successful for us.
Okay, I've got a question back for Kai. So Kai, when you were kind of doing this space and you were picking the theaters that you worked with, was it specific because of the location that you were in? Why did you choose the theater partner that you were working with?
Yeah, for us specifically, like I mentioned before, we were working with multiple universities in the state, all across the Wasatch Front, for those that are familiar with Utah. And so Salt Lake City was central to pretty much everybody. And it also had public transportation to kind of get there, because that was also the big thing too, it's part of this big shopping complex, which didn't have a ton of parking to begin with. And so one of the local transits just stopped right in front of it. And so college kids had free passes because of their, student IDs and whatnot. And so that ultimately just became the decision, is because it was just centrally located, everyone.
I'd love to just comment on the whole idea of the schools and the team. Something to bear in mind, esports in your theater, esports in our locations. Our regional general manager, Dan Terry, for the Caesars properties out in North Carolina, did a phenomenal job of working with Western Carolina University, that we always kind of took a sports sponsorship and guiding that to esports, because, Kai, correct me if I'm wrong, but the biggest thing a lot of the universities sometimes need is physicality. They need a place to play. So if you can be that place, if you can put something together where maybe they meet, they conspire, they plan everything on campus, but when it's time to play, they're in your theater. That's what Dan is working on with the university out there to work them to come over to our spot at Cherokee. So I think that's a great opening for theater operators to look to your local universities and see how you might be able to work together if you're going to introduce esports.
I love it.
Let me take that one step further, because yes, colleges are great and they need a place to play, but with kind of the popularity of esports now, even down to like grade school and and middle schools and high schools, they're having their own interconference, interstate championships, and they need a place to view. And so they need a place to play and a place to view. And so, that barrier to entry for grandma that knows nothing about video games and says, hey, just come to the movie theater, that makes more sense than trying to explain the whole process. If we're going to this esports arena and there's all these lights and sounds and whatnot. And so that's also another opportunity too, is there's lots of school districts, lots of even individual high schools that are looking for either places to play or just places to have hosted as kind of like the viewing center.
Right. Well, somebody said earlier about, last comment. Somebody said earlier about us all hiding in the dark back in the day playing games. There's a great program that's out there now, which is not every kid plays soccer. People are realizing that. And you can capitalize on that, utilizing your facility. That's what Sandbox Gaming is going to be about, to bring people out and create social, safe, exciting environments.
I love it. And this gives us the opportunity to bring Andy in. And Andy's, of course, had a lot of experience. Y'all, this is Andy from Super League Gaming. Hop on here, Andy.
Hi, thank you all, and I apologize for screwing the pooch on the timing here. Super League Gaming has done over 5,000 amateur, semi-pro, and professional esports competitions, the vast majority of which have been in movie theaters. So I'm happy to be here and to share as much knowledge as I can. And I'll just give a quick story based on what Adam just said about not everyone plays soccer. A few years ago, we were running a Minecraft league in movie theaters throughout the United States. And it was a Thursday afternoon, and the kids wear their jerseys. They come in, and it's LA against San Francisco, New York, Chicago, Dallas, Miami. We're all over the country. And the mom and the kid run in, and the kid runs and joins his teammates and it starts playing. And I look at the mom, I say, thank you. Thank you for bringing your kid and playing with us today. And she like grabs my arm and almost tears start coming down her eyes. And she says, no, thank you. My son doesn't do sports, doesn't play soccer, doesn't do Little League or anything like that, has never been a part of a team. When his school has Jersey Day, he never has anything to wear. Now that he's part of this and part of this league, he's got teammates, he loves playing, he gets excited for game day, he has a jersey to wear on Jersey Day at school. Like, I almost started crying myself right then and there. Adam, just what you said, not all kids play soccer. A lot of them do esports, and it's just a great opportunity for movie theaters.
Thank you. We have a question from someone in the audience, so let's see which of you would be qualified to answer this. Probably all of y'all. What are your recommendations for technical support on setting up events? I mean, Randy, you know this all too well. While the video is straightforward, achieving 5.1 audio from the cinema processor with the HDMI sources can be tricky.
So it's a very deep question from my perspective. The way Super League did it, it was all participatory. So everybody coming into the theater, every kid, or if it was an adult game, adults, they were all playing. And what they did is they brought in their laptops to play, which is a challenge that I can dig into a little bit later. But in terms of the theater technology, we had to put in bandwidth to be able to handle 60 players playing simultaneously. We had to put in internal networks in our auditoriums that we were playing in, because milliseconds matter in these games. And if you have bad ping time from either your bandwidth or your internal network, it ruins the experience for the players. You then have, the laptops need power. So, most movie theaters don't have a ton of power, so we had to come up with power solutions. So just very briefly, if you're doing participatory, it gets very complicated. And I know some of the other panelists here have worked on and solved some of those problems. So I'm really eager to hear some of that. But, some of the ways to get around that is, one, mobile games become a lot easier. And then two, maybe it's not everybody participating at once. Maybe you are setting up a console. You can connect them straight into the projector, and it looks great on the big screen, and then rotating people in and out, or maybe you're just having your top 10 players play. It then becomes into how you're organizing your competition to maximize the enjoyment for as many people as possible.
Well, this brings me a question. Go ahead.
I would echo a little of what he just said. If you're a theater operator, don't bite off more than you can chew. Start with a console and something you can control. With a bracketed tournament is as easy as any bracket there is to make. Then you grow because like I said, guys, I'm no expert. Getting 6 different controllers connected to an Xbox is a royal pain. And it takes some time. So you just start with something you can control and grow it. If you're savvy, if you're tech savvy, you've got somebody, your head projectionist is a gaming leaguer person. Maybe you jump up a tier.
And do you guys recommend having something that the gamers could play like in a theater, but have an online event going on at the same time? Has that been something that's been done before?
If I could jump in, so we had an experience. So when we had our 150 cinemas doing it across Europe, we heard of an experience in Scandinavia. So a cinema in Denmark, they were taking part in the kind of live broadcast, but beforehand they had a gaming event, and it was phenomenally successful for them. And I think they had like 1,000 people coming to their big screen to do it. So I think being able to do that works really well. But obviously not every single cinema is set up to do that. But I think, given the numbers that they were achieving, I think it's definitely something to look at.
There's also the way World Gaming used to do it in Canada, where Super League, everybody is playing. What World Gaming would do is they would do the online tournament for the weeks leading up, and then into the movie theater they would have their top 8 teams would come in, and then everybody else other than would be watching. So it would be a combination viewing, and then you'd be watching sort of the championships of the tournament. Is how they did it.
So high level question for you guys. Do you think it's reasonable to say to a cinema, why don't you do some events online to build your brand and an audience? It's something that sounds logical to me, but I'm not the expert here. I'm just the person sharing information, but would that be intelligent?
Again, most independent theater operators, if you have 1,000 locations like James, you've got a team and you've got capabilities. If you have that, yeah, I think you can jump in. But for the average cinema operator, an online event, I'm not even sure what that means, because the idea of this is you want to get people into your cinema. You want them eating concessions, paying ticket prices. Yes, you could certainly do an online something that led up to a finals in your location. I think you're better off doing it every week in your location. So online is maybe an add-on, or really it's your marketing. It's not your event for an independent cinema operator.
Yep.
Yeah. I think just to add from our side, I think even though we've got that scale, we launched a streaming service in the US and the UK in lockdown, and that's been a real challenge for us. And I think, we're at the point where, that's continuing, but we realize that we really want to focus on the theatrical business. So, our preference is to kind of work with like really strong partners. I love this idea of the kind of heat happening online and us then bringing that audience into our cinema screen. So I prefer that model. I mean, it's a great idea, but I'm just not sure whether in reality we'd be able to make it work.
Got it. And do you think that would be intelligent for cinemas to sponsor like events that are happening, to have their brand, become known that they're playing in the space?
I think from our side, we do actually sponsor some sports teams. So,
Okay.
In the UK, we have kind of cricket teams and football teams we sponsor. So, why not like become involved in kind of sponsoring a particular esports team? So definitely never say never.
It depends on your budget. If they have the budget to do that, sure, it's an interesting space.
Let's talk, James. I'm ready. You can sponsor now. It's good.
I can't afford you, Alban.
And I want to go back to the collegiate and kind of lower academic space too, because they're putting on tournaments themselves. There's other organizations that are putting in nationwide tournaments. So if you're a cinema operator that has multiple locations across the nation, maybe that's the opportunity, right? Where, hey, we want this spot on the stream, and you come in, you can get a free popcorn or a free upgrade or whatever. I think there's some very natural integrations there without having to sponsor Albin and G2 and that stuff. So
Albin wants some free tickets.
I thought it was a great idea, but joke aside, I think it's a matter of density. Like if you sponsor kind of a national, international team, you have to make sure that people watching it or seeing it will have an opportunity to go to their closest like exhibitors, So if you have a network at the national level in the US, it makes sense to sponsor something that people can find at local level. I think that's one of the challenges for sure.
That's absolutely a challenge Super League felt. So you've got this local area and you want to drive people into that movie theater. So first you have to pick which game you're going to do, like which esports and the classic thinking is the most popular ones, right? But then you have to find the players of those games who live within a certain radius who would be willing to come in and marketing becomes an issue. Driving people into the theaters can be challenging.
How does one find the players? That's a great question to tee off with.
If I can, one thing we haven't touched upon that's important to theater operators and relates to the players, the same equipment, depending on how you set it up, if it can be permanent, there's a real rental program to expand upon. Is your equipment PC? Is it console? Is it set up to where people can just take the auditorium? Can they rent a PC? We experience a lot of rentals from people that want to play on better equipment with better signals and things of that nature. So I think that's important for a cinema operator to bear in mind, depending on your layout.
Is there any resources for them, Adam, that we can share?
Well, if you have SVOG money, if you're an independent operator and you have SVOG money, this is a program that you can look at and the equipment kind of fits into the mold, especially as individual pieces. So I think that's worth just, doing it. If somebody has a question, I mean, happy to answer it after the fact, if somebody wanted to reach out.
Adam, I personally love that advice for theater operators who are just getting into it. They don't have to handle the tournament operations. They don't have to handle the marketing. They don't have to get people in there. They can provide a base set of equipment that can be used repeatedly. It just seems like a scalable, low risk way to get into this business and start learning from there. I think it's fabulous advice.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the room and ask one last questions before we close today. James, I'm going to ask you, what do you see for the future?
I think for me, I mean, with my distributor hat on, I think, certainly, like I said, we got to such a good stage at the end of 2019 and, we had so many learnings and we'd obviously kind of secured like the rights for the kind of global event. So I think, we've had to kind of go back to square one just because of a change of resource, but I'm really hoping that we're going to be able to deliver a global esports event within the next few years. You might know that BTS, the K-pop band, just had a live and kind of near live event that was broadcast to 3,700. Trafalgar, yeah. So that went to 3,700 cinemas globally. So, going from our kind of 150 to that would be enormous. And, that included a number of cinemas in Korea and China where obviously League of Legends is huge. So I think that is really exciting. I think for me, working with brands, I think is really exciting. We had our last event, MasterCard came on board and loved what we've done in terms of a lot of the branding that they had. But I think as well as those kind of big events, there is this kind of opportunity with kind of local, and that's been spoken about now. Those big events are great, but actually there feels like there is a real opportunity just in terms of kind of reaching out to kind of universities, local clubs, and being quite opportunistic. I think we saw with a lot of events when a kind of local team, a national team got through to the final, there was a huge surge of interest. So kind of working with those sort of kind of local areas, I think would be really exciting.
Excellent. Alba, I'm going to hop over to you. Where's our future? Where do you see cinemas and esports and in your world? Is it still participatory for you?
Yeah, I think like more global events. I think what we have done on League of Legends, I can't wait to happen for games such as Valorant, which is I think the next big game, as well as Counter-Strike. Having the structure with like holders that are strong enough to be the counterpart of distributor like James is important. It's not something we can really organize multi-locally. You want to have like a clear ownership of the rights. You want to organize the stream. I've learned so much working with everybody in Europe and NA about like satellite and feed and things like that. So I think it's essential to understand how to deliver frictionless the content so that not every operator will have the knowledge to do it. So you have to fit with what they are used to do in terms of like event cinemas or live broadcast of movies. And then finally, expand on new territories. I think what is exciting is what's happening in Brazil, what's happening in Philippines, what's happening in China. I think we have been very centered around the Western world, but there's new games and new territories coming. So that's quite exciting. I think we had some success on a periodic event, like few events here and there. I wish that we have a monthly program that James is going to put together so that we can really take the share of voice that now have like opera, for example.
And I do want to suggest all the participants that are still here, throw your LinkedIn contact in the chat. And that way, if anybody wants to grab it, they can. Kai, let me ask you, what do you think is the next hottest game that's going to come out that's going to play well in a cinema?
Oh, well, that's a very loaded question, and I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that. But I do think that in the way of a watch party, I think that any game title can do that. Almost every competitive esport title has a Super Bowl-esque event like League of Legends Worlds or the World Championships with Overwatch League and things like that. And all of those have the opportunity to do a watch party. And I think what I hope to see is more of an adoption and acceptance, right? More similar to like Fathom events, where you get to watch plays and operas. And, I remember watching Yo-Yo Ma's play live in a movie theater. I think the one thing to just remember with a watch party and live event, it's going to get loud. It's going to get crazy. And that is okay. Right. And I think that breaks the normal kind of movie theater mindset of I'm going to be here. I'm going to, either watch with my partner or whatnot and experience it. But a watch party for a gaming event is a party, and be excited and ready for that.
Okay. And Andy, what's your future with Super League? Are we coming back to cinema, I hope?
Yeah, we would certainly love to do that. Just in general advice, again, I don't want to get too repetitive, but I thought Adam's rent it out, let the other people handle all the logistical stuff is a great idea. For Super League pre-COVID, where we were seeing our most growth and success was mobile games. I think mobile esports are growing and will continue to grow, and it makes it real easy to participate because everyone has a smartphone in their pocket, and the games are in the hundreds of millions of players. And then I think Kai was spot on. The watch parties are parties. They're tons of fun. The energy and excitement is great, and that's definitely something you can tap into on a local basis.
Okay, next up, Adam. We're almost down to the wire, y'all.
Gaming in league gaming, instead of Little League, instead of a bowling league. I mean, anybody who's ever been in a bowling league, you bowl about 15% of the time. The rest of the time, you're standing around chit-chatting, drinking beer, having what have you. We're going to take that same effect, bring leagues into movie theaters. There's going to be kid leagues. There can be adult leagues. You can segment content, time, show times, and you can do this without disrupting your main schedules. You can do this without taking your prime show times. and create something that's going to be fantastic. So I really see an enormous growth of cinema and esports. The whole point of this call and Heather's effort, I think we all have to thank Heather for such a great effort to bring cinema and esports or gaming. I think esports is that, you know, not everybody can be the NFL either. Most kids just want a game. They want to have fun. We can provide that environment in a movie theater. So I'm looking forward to that.
And I will tell you this before I hop to John, the next CAC event will be on community activation and community engagement. And the one after that is teams, leagues, and influencers. So Adam, I will be coming back to you in July. Hopefully you're ready to really share a lot more, okay? Okay, John.
It'll be at CinemaCon too.
Okay, good. John, final thoughts for us.
Yeah, no, you know, definitely want to echo a lot of the things that have been said so far, but I also don't want to walk away feeling like non-participatory, just watching events are undervalued, right? Like those are tremendous. Those are really where you get butts and seats for long periods of time. And the logistics and the barrier to entry on watching streams and creating those environments is supremely smaller, supremely lower, much easier to do. I think finding your local collegiate communities and working with them, you have more than 50 plus US colleges that offer, you know, varsity level athletic scholarships at this point, right? Like that's the level of support that internally you're seeing from many of these institutions. I think that watch parties existing for a variety of different leagues, yes, for you know, your League of Legends World Championships, but even some of the smaller things, it shouldn't be difficult to you know, bring out a theater or two for those. And many of them are in off hours. I think there's an easy future for more integrated content with publishers directly, debuting new footage, showing a demo, doing a Q&A with fans with one representative in the theater, but, you know, hundreds of people watching them, you know, live. I think that is very much easy to do from a programmatic standpoint. And to the same degree, you have 140 million monthly unique users on Twitch that are watching and disseminating content every day. You know, partnering with popular content creators and creating watch parties where maybe even, you know, you have that creator shouting out your theater live and talking directly to the fans that are within your facilities. That is not difficult to do, and getting the rights to be able to do that is not difficult either. So I think, to me, the future of cinema in gaming and esports is really being one of those communal grounds where you can bring people together around content that otherwise is disseminated and viewed in an individualized basis. But that very much appreciates those types of environments because they're immersive and they're social. And that's fun. And that's something that no one else can offer but you guys.
John, that idea on local shoutcaster hosts is spot on. When Super League started doing that, the energy in the theater went up 1,000 times. Love that.
Yep.
Well, guys, this concludes our CEAC event with our in-theater experiences. You guys are all experts. I'm so humbled to have you as our guest speakers. So I want to thank you, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.
Everybody put your contact in the chat.